这进步做的你没讲，做的没那么进步，俺讲到，大概到工厂都什么多，东巴都这讲了，给上菜儿，你像是我这里上工厂，这个都几全了也了。你们碰做上老所让的，讲这东半坡的新几路，讲这东半坡的新几路，讲这东半坡的新几路。像这生活得到很美吧，那得中等的小家的。电力至于像这生活的年度的兰德克节没说，在当单把贴这个写入到所能当对象设备写入到所能是马上学的继续是呢，得到的或者那讲做进步人呢是。在讲这个现在的到了，在把种子讲没多，甚至他们自己现在的看不着咱们的干话做讲，得了在把门脚肉的继续是那这么大写入当当然是。ما زبالة شو تبجان شبي جازر نود اللي باند أنا زبر مني صو تاني جازتي كورا تامشلا تسمبر شيجان جازتي زبر منجر تو شانشو سانخوا دان نيان تو دان جابشن دان تسامبا دان جيتن جوان نام دان سمشن جان دا جازي زوبا تي دا جام جرترن جيتن جي كم ديوا تامشراب تر جنبا شانشو سانخوا نام جي ديوا جن رابا تير تابي ديوا لي لا كيسو تي دا Teta karpi konvarpi konvane dartava trava Teta karpi konvane kyang dartavi tra shongvanan dartate wana jiten ji kan putam chi ji chum chokte la yang xiang rnam le zhe shongwa zhen no de le zamba zhima me ba zhaba 西域的中等的这种说把工作做把上几几项呢，他比上就生活那么难得个节没说，这个这种说把工作做把的就东把挣扎的到个没把，这种说把的那一个的你比自己就没懂的，只对你计较上就生活那个人家的不。给香港更个中的，像就生活的等的把的来那着。的种的更这的那么他的像就生会用的他们自己种呢就下边等人真的拉到托不了劲多等人真的托马头的得到他们就像就生会用的结果的你像就生活得到后来咱们这么没不知道兰德克节没说的那种的世界的比出他们知道拉到托不了在的没吧结果他们那真的到拉到搞的Semchin Amargut Darka under Namla Amargut Darka under Vichtam Raptor Tondo Amargut Darka Nam Darvakan Amargut Darka Vichtam de Kanjina Dartate Dana Semjan Yarwagun Dana Tundur Tierneson Dana Shenjitino Dana Mokombagon Dana Wombonia Bartiewago Dana Li Never Shoban Dana Ligi Never Chaba Mambago Dana Ngaka Never Shobagon Dana Ngaka Never Shobe Number Mambago, Dona Yiki never shobago, Dona Yiki never shobi, Shapir number Mambago, Dona Chobago, Dona Machine Balimbago, Dona Dope Lobra Imbago, Dona Zunder Mavago, Dona Chamar Mavago, Dona Sabogo, Dona Tsikarvago, Dona Napsim so, Dona Nusim so, Dona Loberstavago, Dona Teta. Number Mambago, Dona Sernago, Dona Sernim Jevogo, Dona Chava, Dona Chervitz, Dona Choago, Dona Lelo, Dona Lelum Jevogo, Dona Chervi Sherabo, Dona Chervi Sherab Jim Jevogo, Dona Flapiazili, and Debago, Dona Susur Tarvago, Dona Shavago, Dona Mavjavago, Dona number Joago, Dona Mavjo, Dona Jabago, Dona Mavjabago, Dona Stoago, Dona Stoalende, Shumago. Dona Lamon, Dona Lamgambago, Dona Geago, Dona Magevago, Dona Kanamato Badam Chebago, Dona Kanamato Mebago, Dona Zabadam Chebago, Dona Zabadam Mebago, Dona Jiktenbago, Dona Jikten and Debago, Dona Shi Disheso, Dona Disheso, Dona Dimasheso, Dona Canino Mombago, Dona number of Shanwago, Dona Korago, Dona Nyanga Lendebagoji, Tirtavi Churnabatam of Shepe, Star Murgutter, Tavi Sim, Star Murgutavi, Star. Sta Margutavi Simrato Starinua Sta Havi ni ma 说是语言后 这里说是业嘛，到底是谁啊？得会拿大个嘛，瓦楞阿尔古的瓦楞就是这样的词狂想。这里说瓦楞野牛是吧？瓦楞阿尔古。غنات تبدا تسنجين ضروري شي دو تيجند سمجي مرغو دروا نامجا دغور مو بختام جي درور نجروت
Now let's continue with the Vimalakirti Sutra, but I again like to make a few announcements before the class. The first one is no sound. A few things I would like to address. First one, how do I even start? During our study, practice, and everything, when we're doing it together, I think we should pay attention to our actions. Especially according to the Tibetan calendar, this year is rather special. From different kind of calculation on the astrology. In fact, this is for yourself and for your group. It is better for you to rather be low-key. According to Buddhism and other religions, we all talk about abiding, such as abiding like a tree. Stay and abide like a tree without movements. Try to go to different events that has lots of people attending, or going to different activities that has many people over there, like large gatherings and so on. It is the best to stay on your own and practice and listen to the Dharma and study. There's a sutra in Tibetan Buddhism, but there's a sutra in Tibetan language. It says, the sutra's name is the Naga's Drum Sound Sutra. So within it, it talks about how to abide, talks a lot about these kind of teachings. I'm not saying this because something's happening or so. I'm just saying this based on the calculation of different astrology predictions and so on. So it is the best to eliminate as much chores as possible, as much as activities as possible, and eliminate different group activities in such a way, then you'll be able to succeed in this year in terms of your studying and practice. That's the first thing. The second thing is that nowadays people use the name of Buddhism, let them be Buddhists or not. They use different methods to collect money. this kind of activities are rather very popular. So if you notice such activities, you should be alerted. Do not fall into the traps of how people tell you that they're raising money for making offerings to the Sangha, they're gathering funds for supporting some Dharma events or so. Do not fall into traps like such. A little while ago, a Lama used my name to raise funds for doing Dharma assemblies. And when I found out, we reported to the police. And after that, they left Larungar. So there are things like that happening often. Therefore, when that happens, I really hope that you should be aware of such activities and do not fall into the traps and give them money. So I think it's best to use your wisdom to distinguish whether if they're genuine or not. Let it be Larungar or monastery or the institute. We never really asked the money from others. We never really actively went out to gather money. And if once you see anyone go out and get money, then they must have some different agendas behind. There are nowadays things that's listed online on sale. They would say that this is blessed by so-and-so, this is blessed by so-and-so master. I think this is probably not genuine, because the blessings, how can you appraise the price for something that is blessed? If this is blessed by the monastery, by the Shidra, by some monastery, by some masters, how can you appraise the money for it? There's tens of thousands of monastics who blessed this object, therefore it costs tens of $1,000, and that one's by 1,000 monastics, therefore it costs $1,000. How can you say that? Including Buddhists. I think if we really have some objects that's a blessed object, you should not sell the objects that is appraised based on how many people or whomsoever blessed it. Nowadays, I see lots of pills being sold and saying that this pill has the blessings of the monastic, this has the blessings of getting healthy, to be beautiful, to keep well, and so on. But when you look at those people who are selling those kind of pills, they themselves who are selling them are not healthy or beautiful. The science nowadays is rather very developed. If you really want to keep health, then the Japanese or German medicines or other kind of medicines, use those kind of medicines or nutritions could be helpful. And in terms of Buddhism, we are very good at keeping your mental health rather than keeping your wrinkles flat and so on. We're not. That's not our profession. If we just chant some mantra to flatten your wrinkles around your eyes, those are quite a bit difficult. When we look at those people who chant mantras a lot, you can see that they're full of wrinkles on their face. Of course, I'm not saying that the three jewels do not bless you. I'm just saying that I really hope that people could get back to the core of Buddhism. Especially nowadays when lots of merchandise are very much affiliated with faith, that could be very difficult to distinguish what the intentions are. So we should distinguish them with our wisdom. So the first thing I would like to then remind you again, that is, I really hope that everyone to keep low-key and be rather very careful in this year, to have peaceful, to have a steady time in terms of studying and practice. Do not do things that's too crazy, too outrageous at this point of time. In fact, that could bring lots of obstacles to yourself, to Buddhism as well. I think we all need skillful means as well as wisdom. We should all be very much aware of the current social and current world and lots of the issues that's happening around. And look inward to look at our own inner realizations and the status of inner realizations. So those are the two things I would like to address before the class of the Vimalakirti Sutra. In Vimalakirti Sutra, we stopped at the place where we said that there isn't much of this food in the Pure Land. And it is because in the Pure Land, because in this world, many bodhisattvas came to this world. So tens of thousands of bodhisattvas are all gathered around, but we only have a little bit of food. How can we then share this food? And people were all very much concerned. So at that point, then a bodhisattva, the bodhisattva that's conjured by Vimalakirti, he then said that do not measure the limitless blessings and the sagacity of Tathagata with the small merit and small wisdom of a Shravaka. And now he then gives an example, or rather a metaphor, says that even were the 4 seas to dry up, this food would not be exhausted. The little bit of food that the Buddha fragrance accumulation brought could last for the immeasurable number of beings to enjoy. He then continued to say that even if everyone ate as much as Mount Sumeru for an entire kalpa, we would never be able to exhaust it. Even if one eats day and night and for 3 meals a day, those meals won't be exhausted. Why is that? That is because the leftover meal of someone who is fully possesses the merit of morality, meditation, wisdom, sagacity, emancipation, and vision, that hearing of emancipation can never be exhausted. This kind of food can never be exhausted. So the conjured bodhisattva told such reasoning behind why the food won't get exhausted, because the food came from the Buddha fragrance accumulation, who has the merit of morality, meditation, wisdom, and the emancipation, and between the vision and hearing of emancipation. So what does that mean? It means that they are the undefiled skandhas. So the defiled skandhas at this point then turned into the undefiled skandhas in front of all sentient beings. the Buddha could manifest themselves in different forms in front of different beings. That is morality, the skanda of morality. And the skanda of meditation is unshakable, where they will abide in the state of samadhi. Then our defiled knowledge will become or transform into the skanda of wisdom, which means the wisdom of reality and wisdom of omniscience of Tathagata. Between then at the point of emancipation, then the Buddha attained complete emancipation or complete undefiled perception. That is why only one bowl of food could transform into bowls of food that all beings can enjoy, and the food won't get exhausted. It is because of the incredible merit of the Tathagata. This cannot be measured by our limited mind. Do not use your wisdom to measure it. Don't even mention yours. You cannot mention it by the Shravakas or the Arhat's wisdom. So the rice, you don't know what food it is, and probably not rice. You don't really know what it is. The food of fragrance. So the fragrance food can then be enjoyed by limitless amount of sentient beings. There was a story of how Manjushri also used his numinous power to bless the food of Ajata Satru. So I'm going to tell this story. This story is included in the biography of 8 Bodhisattvas. Mipa Rinpoche also quoted this story before. I think some of you probably know this story, and lots of you probably don't. Anyhow, the story goes like such. The king, Ajata Satru, killed his father. After conducting such evil deed, he wanted to confess, and at that point the Buddha saw that only Manjushri could help him to repent his sin. And then the Buddha told Manjushri to go and receive the food offering from the king Ajata Satru. Only Manjushri goes to him could really help the king Ajata Satru. He then agreed to make food offering to Manjushri and many other bodhisattvas and many other monastics. And then the Buddha told Manjushri that I think you should go, and once you do go and receive the meal from King Ajata Satru, I think this will be very much beneficial to the king as well as to the sentient beings. Through his samadhi, Manjushri then went to a Pure Land where the Tathagata of auspiciousness resides, and he requested from the Tathagata of auspiciousness, saying that could you invite lots of your bodhisattvas to receive the food, the meal from Ajatasattu, the king Ajatasattu, and then he took 25,000 bodhisattvas to the kingdom of Ajatasattu and received the food. And at that time, he was then teaching to the bodhisattvas on what you should do at the beginning of the night, mid of night, and end of night. And around that time, the bodhisattvas then attained different levels of realization at that moment. So Bodhisattva so Manjushri then brought all the bodhisattvas to the kingdom of Ajatasattu, and halfway he met the great Kashyapa, and the great Kashyapa wanted to tag along with Manjushri. Because Manjushri is a good friend with the great Kashyapa, then the great Kashyapa said that he was on the way of begging for alms. And since he was bringing also along 500 Shravakas, along with 500 Shravakas, the great Kashyapa was a little worried, saying that I'm not going to receive the food. Rather, I really wanted to go there to listen to your teaching. Therefore, even if I can't receive food, that's okay. So Manjushri brought along rather 82,000 bodhisattvas along with 500 from the great Kashyapa. There were 82,500 people. That's a lot of people. And when they arrived, Ajatasattu was extremely frightened. He was thinking that I don't have enough food to offer to everyone. And then one of the four protectors, the Vaishravana, told Ajatasattu, saying that don't worry, because Manjushri has his numinous penetrations and he could definitely help out, and you don't have to worry about the limited amount of food that you prepared. I'm sure Manjushri will have a way to help you out with offering the food to such a great congregation. At first, they didn't have this 82,500 cushions to sit, and then Manjushri manifested all those cushions, and then manifested the bowls and utensils, just like when our practitioners, our sanghas, who don't really have enough utensils and the bowls. When there are too many guests coming, but all these guests, they brought their own bowls. Through their numinous penetration, they called their bowls to fly all the way from the Pure Land to where they are at that moment, and they were able to eat from their own bowl. At that moment, the king Ajatasattu was really happy. He went to Manjushri saying that I only prepared the meal for 500 people, but how could all people over here be sufficed with the quantity of 500 people? And then Manjushri answered, saying that in fact the meal is unborn, just like your regret of committing the sin. After the meal, all the bodhisattvas throw their bowls into the mid-air, and all the bowls just abide in the mid of the air without moving. And the king was really amazed again, asking the Manjushri, saying, how could the bowl stay in the air? Where do they abide? How could they how could they abide in the space without anything they could rest on? Then the Manjushri saying that in fact they abide in emptiness, just like your regret of committing a sin. And then the king asked Manjushri, saying that, how can I confess my sin then? Manjushri saying that, no, you can't. Even all the Tathagatas of the Ganges, of the sands of Ganges River, all gathered here, you cannot confess your sin in front of them. And at that time, the king Ajatasattu passed out of sadness. Then the great Kashyapa woke him up, saying that, wake up, it's okay. I'm sure Manjushri must have said this out of skillful means. So why don't you ask again and clarify what he meant? Then the king Ajatasattu woke up and asked Manjushri, saying, what do you mean by that I cannot confess my sin? Manjushri saying that in fact the sin that you committed is just like the space. It does not have a solid existence as its nature. And after saying and teaching him this, the king Ajatasattu attained realization of forbearance. So in the Vimalakirti Sutra, it is through the blessings of Tathagata, all the immeasurable number of beings can all enjoy the unexhausted source of a meal. And then over here in this story that we just heard from Manjushri, it is from the Manjushri's blessings. In our monastery, we don't have a big, we don't really have a big pot to cook for everyone. And when we also went to Mount Wutai, 500 people were eating from one pot of meal. At that time, we didn't really think too much about it. But nowadays, when we look at this pot, that pot is probably only enough to serve food for 100 people. Offering meal to the Sangha or offering meal to the monastics, I think it is through the blessings of bodhisattvas that the meal get unexhausted and really fulfill all the people's wishes. For people without faith, I think they won't believe in it. Maybe they'll pass out by listening to such kind of opinion. Therefore, I'm not going to expand too much on it, but I'm going to point out that lots of the sacred meanings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are very difficult to fathom through our limited mind. At this, the bowl of food satisfied all within the assembly, yet was unchanged and undepleted. So it's unexhaustible food. Unexhausted food. The bodhisattvas, Shravakas, gods, and inside the gods, and there were also Brahmins as well as other celestial beings and the four protectors. So this is included in the Tibetan version as well as the Sanskrit version. version all included those group of people as well. And the humans who ate this food became physically peaceful and very happy. Unlike lots of people over here who may feel that they didn't eat well, they couldn't digest the food, they have a stomach ache, and so on. Around lunch, I asked a few Sangha members saying that, how are you feeling lately? Someone saying that I'm having a headache, and one says that I couldn't fall asleep at night, and the other one says that she has a stomach ache. So, as beings in the Saha world, we suffer from all different sorts of sufferings. Unlike the meal that is provided by the Tathagata fragrance accumulation, which brings physical peacefulness as well as happiness to all beings. As if they were all bodhisattvas who take pleasure in ornamenting their Buddha countries, their pure lands. I think in our human world, the human realm, lots of people often feel that I'm suffering a lot. I think I'm just such an unfortunate person. Lots of unfortunate things happen. I think nowadays people suffer a lot out of no reason. But the meal, the food that's provided by this Tathagata, after this meal, everyone whomsoever ate it, their pores all exude wondrous fragrances, just like the fragrances of the trees of the host of fragrances country. I think because all bodhisattvas' merits are incredible or unfathomable, for bodhisattvas who received such state of realization, they all have the natural fragrance come from them. That is the fragrance of merit, fragrance of morality. Just as Master Xuen, who only took shower twice a year, but his body would exude lots of fragrance. Unlike nowadays, how people would use lots of fragrance, would use perfume. Do you know the history of perfume? In fact, the history of perfume is not that beautiful at all. Just as how in old European times, because at that time people don't like to take shower, and in order to cover up their stinky, smelly smell, they would then use fragrance to cover their odor of the body. But nowadays people use it very often. I myself don't really use it. I don't want people to say that about me. Anyhow, there was a story of how some realized practitioners would exude a scent that is very natural, that sense of fragrance. A master who didn't shower for a while and look very dirty and so on. They would appear so dirty, but their smell are very pleasant. There was a writing by Dzongsa Rinpoche which described Gyalpa Rinpoche's fragrance that naturally exuded from his body. Not that his body is fragranced by the incense. But when Dogo Khyentse Rinpoche was in airports and those public places, the smell were very much a fragrance. I really believe in it because Phuntsog Rinpoche, also, I think you probably have never really met him, but when I was his attendant, his clothing, I was taking up the job of washing his clothing. In India, it's really hot, as you may know. If you wear your clothing for a few days, for normal people, we would have that stink of the sweat, but I'm not praising or I'm not saying this or lying about the smell of Phuntsog Rinpoche, because whenever I wash his clothing smells really fragrant, and that fragrance will last for a long period of time. He has a long jacket. I only has one sleeve of his clothing now. I don't think he ever washed that clothing, that jacket, but even after years, his fragrance is still there. I have it, but maybe from time to time I would like to then prove my point. Otherwise, I think for lots of you probably believe in it because you're so very much trapped by the materialistic appearance rather than this kind of manifestation. Of course, this is the fragrance coming from the Tathagata and the Pure Land. Vimalakirti then asked the Bodhisattva from the host of fragrances, Pure Land, saying that how does accumulation of fragrances Tathagata explain the Dharma? How would the fragrance accumulation of fragrance Tathagata teach the Dharma, and what kind of Dharma does he teach? And then the Bodhisattva said that in our land, the Tathagata explains the Dharma without words. In fact, his way of propagating the Dharma is very special. He uses the host of fragrances to make the gods and humans enter into the practice of Vinaya. Over here, it says to enter into the practice of Vinaya, but in other translated versions, it says that to tame the mind. So he used the fragrance to tame the minds of the gods and humans and lead them to liberation. They would sit under the fragrance tree and smelling such wondrous fragrances, from which they would attain the samadhi of repository of all virtues, and this is the name of the samadhi, the treasure of all virtues. Whomsoever attains such samadhi, all these bodhisattvas, they all become replete in the merits of the bodhisattvas. Unlike in our world, we study through language, through words. And in this Pure Land of host of fragrances, we in fact use more of the faculty of ear to listen to the Dharma. After listening to the Dharma through such process, you will be able to purify your karma and to practice. But in this world, in the world of host of fragrances, they use mainly their nose consciousness or nose faculty, where they can receive the teaching of the Dharma. In this Saha world, not necessarily that we use the ear faculty, such as the Tathagata's sacred meaning teaching teaching. They would receive such teaching through the secret meanings by understanding. And then there's the Vidyadhara's manifestation or Vidyadhara's manifestation of Dharma. Sometimes, for example, through the empowerment, we would show a crystal globe, and through such showing of crystal, then you'll be able to understand the nature of your mind. Or when a master pointing at the sky, at the space, at the clouds, all through this, and this is related more to the eye consciousness. Or some of the teachings are not through words either, just as how Vimalakirti didn't stay in silence without speaking of a word, and that's the most supreme way of teaching the Dharma. It is the same. There's another story that is recorded in a compendium of 5 lamps. That's a Zen text, which tells the story of Huang Tingjian, whose story I think I told many times before as well. Anyhow, a Zen master brought him to a forest, and then over there they saw lots of beautiful flowers, and then the fragrance of the flower were really delightful. And then the Zen master asked Huang, saying that, can you smell it? Upon smelling such fragrance of the flower, Huang then all of a sudden resolved all his doubts and became enlightened at that moment. So even in our world, there are very special ways of attaining enlightenment. In Vajrayana, there are pointing to the nature of your mind. The teacher could pointing to could use different methods, such as some really stinky smell and ask the students to smell it, or asking students to smell some really fragrant items and ask the students to smell them. And through such methods, there are students who can get enlightened at that moment, but this is rather quite rare cases. But in comparison with the host of fragrance, Pure Land, the accumulation of fragrance Tathagata used only fragrance to teach. So I think in such land, the fragrances must be, or the incense and perfumes must be very expensive and very popular. And whenever you use such methods, you can also make lots of money. Through selling incense and fragrances to them, that is, and you can use the name of saying, this is blessed by the host, this is blessed by the accumulation of fragrance Tathagata. And then those bodhisattvas asked Vimalakirti, saying that now, how does the world-honored one Shakyamuni explain the Dharma here? At first, Vimalakirti asked all the bodhisattvas coming from Pure Land of a host of fragrance, and now it's their turn to ask questions of Vimalakirti. I think this is very similar to when I go to Western countries and asking those Western universities and Western professors, saying, what is it like to teach and study in this university, and so on. And then the professors would also ask back, how does the monastics study in your university? So is everyone shaved in your monastery then? We are, of course, in the same world, but in different countries, we have rather different. We have a different lifestyle, and we have then lots of questions to ask one another. Similarly to the host of Fragrance Pure Land, people or bodhisattvas coming from that Pure Land would also have similar questions to Samsara world, and vice versa. And similarly, I think different religions we may have different misunderstandings or lots of questions towards one another. But if you ever meet another person coming from a different religion, you probably could communicate about it, and then you learn a lot about the other person as well as the other religion. That is why I think you should try to understand one another and try to communicate with one another without making the presumptions and biases before communicating, before knowing. So I think young people, you should develop curiosity towards this world and try to learn more about one another without jumping to conclusions. Otherwise, you will make unnecessary mistakes that you would regret when you get older. At that time, then Vimalakirti answered saying that the sentient beings of this land that is taught by Shakyamuni, we're like a third world country. I think in your Pure Land everything is so developed, but over here we're like the third world country that is undeveloped. In our previous class, when we talked about Shakyamuni Buddha's great aspiration, who vowed to liberate the sentient beings who are rather have lots of afflictions. Nowadays, I think we like easy project. We like to help and liberate sentient beings who are rather have lots of merits and who are easy to liberate, but we don't really like to get along with beings who have lots of afflictions and so on. Similarly, there are bodhisattvas and Buddhas who then go to different Pure Lands to liberate sentient beings, but the Buddha Shakyamuni is the one who vowed to liberate sentient beings who have lots of afflictions. Kumarajiva, over here in his commentary, saying that the Buddha's language has three types, and the first one is stern language, the second one is kind language, and third one is both of the above together. For people who prone to do kind things, then the Buddha teaches them through kind words, and the people who does lots of evil deeds, then the Buddha would teach them with stern language. And for people who rather do both, then the Buddha would teach them with both of language. Just as some of our Sangha members, if we only be very kind to them, they will get even more aggressive. Would get rather arrogant, and for people who are so they need to have both kind and stern language to be tamed. And similarly, for people who would cry and get upset after stern language, you would have to try to comfort them and console them with kind language. So continue. According to Master Hu Yuan's commentary,
什么呢？就是佛陀的这个插图也好，佛陀的
He says that the Buddha Shakyamuni's
说法，因为他问那个你们释迦牟尼佛是怎么说法的嘛？然后说是释迦牟尼佛呢就是说法是主要是以这个苦集灭道就是以四谛为主。
Mainly in this world, the Buddha taught the suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, as well as the path of cessation as the Four Noble Truths, which is the Four Noble Truths as the main way of teaching the sentient beings in this Sahara world.
那么这样的话，首先呢。
So first of all, over here, this part talks about the suffering aspect. So the suffering talks about, he says, these are the hells, these are the animals, and these are the hungry ghosts, these are the places of difficulty, the eight, and these are the places where the foolish are born. Over here, the foolish means the handicapped beings, the beings who do not have the full capacity of learning. So this part talks about the truth of suffering out of the Four Noble Truths. The second part talks about the cause of suffering. In one of the sutra where the Buddha taught the Buddha taught in the Metaphor Sutra of Dharma words, he said that the act non-virtuously will induce wretched consequence, which is like to sow seeds that will bear bitter fruit, and to act virtuously will induce good results, which is like to plant seeds that will bear sweet fruit. So if you practice non-virtuous seed, you will have non-virtuous fruition. And if you act virtuously, you will then receive the virtuous result. Just as by planting bitter fruit seed, you will receive bitter fruit, and sweet fruit seed, you will receive sweet fruit as a result. So the cause of suffering is the second noble truth. Then talks about so over here it talks about the 8 kinds of conditions where you will be difficult to encounter the Dharma as the fruition, as the current situation of suffering or the truth of suffering. The second part then talks about cause of suffering or the seeds of suffering. In a summary form, talks about the 10 types of non-virtuous karma. Later it will be expanded, explained in more expanded form. The cause of suffering. So this part talks about the cause of suffering. The first one says is the practice of the non-virtuous practice of the body, and then the non-virtuous practice of speech, non-virtuous practice of the mind. And then later in the next paragraph, it is then extensively explained. This part talks about mainly around the human realm. The 3 non-virtuous deeds such as killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Speech aspect talks about lying, and mind aspect talks about the drinking alcohol, drinking intoxicants. So those then talks about how the five things that leads to the five things that leads to the five non-virtuous deeds that need to be avoided in order to be reborn in the human realm again. And then the next part talks about how if you want to be reborn in the celestial realm, you need to abandon all 10 non-virtuous deeds. The next part talks about the three aspects of non-virtuous deeds conducted by body. Talks about the false speech and the fruition of false speech. The four types of meaning the four types of false speech. And then talks about the three non-virtuous deeds that's conducted by mind. So there's desire, jealousy, anger, vexation, and heterodox view or wrong view. Those are the 10 non-virtuous deeds. According to Master Hui Yuan, it says that once you read it, once you look at it, you understand what it means. Therefore, if Master Hui Yuan says that, I don't think I will expand too much about it either. So I think once you read it, you understand it very much as well. Once you eradicate all these 10 non-virtuous deeds, then you will be able to reborn in celestial realm. The next part talks about the 6 paramitas and the 6 things that drive you away from practicing the 6 paramita. The first one is morality or immorality, and the second one is anger, and the third one is laziness. That is the opposite of diligence. The fruitions of laziness, people who are suffering from such consequences of being lazy, maybe from their previous life or from this present life's habitual patterns. The next one is perturbation, which is the opposition of meditation. And the next one is the opposite of wisdom, which is stupidity. Those above are talking about the 6 paramitas. So this part then talks about the bodhisattva yana. The first one talks about how to then be reborn in human realm. Second one, what to avoid to be reborn in celestial realm. And third one, what to avoid to be reborn as or to attain the boonies of bodhisattva. This part talks about the causes of suffering, the truth of causes of suffering. That each one of them has its causes of having such fruition. In the Avatamsaka Sutra also says that all existence and phenomena in samsaric world are various karmic effects caused by the perceiver's previous actions, which would vanish should all the karmas of the perceiver be exhausted. Only that you vanish, only that you exhaust all the karmas of such result would be vanished. People nowadays would feel that why I don't get successful, why don't I get rich? We started the business at the same time. Why is he rich and I'm poor? Why is she beautiful and I'm ugly? Everyone likes her, but why don't they like me? Why everyone look at me and feel really upset about me? I think in such a way you should then really contemplate upon karma, because everything that everything works around karma. The causes and conditions that cannot be seen by everyone. But this is quite rather real. There's a poem that the poetry's title is Auguries of Innocence by William Blake, where he says that you can see a world in a flower, in a grain of sand, and heaven in a wild flower. And inside this long poetry, it also talked about how if you kill the moth or butterfly, you will wait for the judgment day and do not harm different bugs or different animals because you receive such kind of fruition. This is a Western poetry, but I think those wise people also have a world view that is rather very close to the Buddhist point of view, rather than nowadays people who do not recognize all the cause and condition and fruitions. They only blindly reject such a fact. They do not even have any reasoning behind. Then do not recognize that there are reasons behind what you're experiencing at this moment. If you have really good wisdom and really good knowledge and really smart at this point, you must have had made cultivation to such smartness. Maybe that you know, maybe that you don't know of. So karma is quite important. If you understand how karma works, there are lots of things that happens around the world. If you know how karma works, then lots of things happens around you, around the world. You'll be able to have a very different perception around them. You'll be able to have a much deeper understanding around them. But if you don't understand karma, if you don't accept karma, then you will always be in a state of questioning. Why is it that I'm such a good person, but I'm not accepted by my group? But why people around me don't recognize that, don't appreciate me? So I really encourage you to study karma more in its subtle ways and really put more efforts into the study of karma. And then that would really change your understanding of the world, change your perception. The next part talks about the path of cessation. In this part, it talks about the precepts and how to stop doing the things that violate the precepts and how to uphold the precepts. The precepts that are stipulated by the Buddha. In Buddhism, in fact, all these kind of precepts are very clear. What can be done and what should be done. This is good. This is virtuous deeds that you should do it, or that is not virtuous. Therefore, you should not conduct this. This is pure. That is defiled. This is a wrong path. And that is a correct path. All of those kind of things are all very clearly described in the teaching of the Buddha. So this part talks about the path of cessation, the truth of path of cessation. I really think as Buddhists we should understand what is the path and what is the wrong path or what is the right path. It's quite important. In the East we practice Nodro, we practice the 10 virtuous deeds and cut off the 10 on unvirtuous deeds. But in the West, they come from up down. They first study the nature of mind. If you really recognize your nature of mind, you don't have to study all of those at all. But because they don't understand, then they had to study from up down. I was talking to someone from outside of the monastery. They really don't understand too much about what is virtuous and what is non-virtuous. Those people continue to say that I'm such a kind person, I'm very virtuous. But in fact, if you really look at what is virtuous and what is non-virtuous as taught by the Buddha, they would recognize that they lie, they make lots of non-virtuous deeds, yet they still consider themselves as a virtuous person. Therefore, I think it's quite important to study some foundational studies, some foundational knowledge. They just want to study emptiness, they just want to study a very high level of studies. They don't even want to study those foundational teachings of Buddhism. They would belittle those kind of foundational teachings. Okay, so we'll finish this part. So we talked about the path of cessation, which talks about also this is conditioned and this is unconditioned, this is worldly, this is nirvana. And this part talks about what is unconditioned and what is nirvana, that is the cessation, the truth of cessation. Because the question was that how does Shakyamuni Buddha teaches the Dharma then? So Vimalakirti then says that the mind of people are so difficult to convert like monkeys. Then the Tibetan version says that they're like the wild horses rather than the monkeys. One must use several types of Dharma to control their minds. The beings are so difficult to tame. They need to be disciplined through many different ways, are just like elephants and wild horses who are very stubborn, very wild, and uncontrollable, who can only be disciplined by making them suffer to the bone. In only such a way they are suffering to the bone, they can be tamed and controlled. The Tibetan version as well as the Sanskrit version says that they have to be hit the right nail on the head in order to understand, or in order to be tamed and disciplined. And in the Chinese version it says that it's suffered to the bone, to the marrow, and then they will be able to be disciplined. And it is because of that the sentient beings of this world are obscured are obliterated like this. Because the sentient beings of this world are like this, therefore Shakyamuni Buddha uses all sorts of painful and strict and stern language to get the sentient beings to enter into nirvana. I think maybe Kumar Jiva's commentary, he says that there are 5 types of horses. The first one who will be tamed and controlled once he saw the shadow of the whip of the master. The second one is that they will be tamed only through hitting slightly. and then they will be tamed. The third one is that they has to be hit really hard, and then they will be tamed. The fourth one is that the whip has to be so hardly hit on the horse that the whip will slash into the flesh of the horse that will be tamed. And then the fifth one is the horse need to be stabbed to the bone. They will be then tamed. So the 5 types of horses who can be tamed through different from the variation of pain. Similarly, people are tamed through different levels of certain language. The first one will be tamed just when the first type person will understand there's impermanence once they see other people die, and then the second one when they see that the father or the teacher who passed away, they will understand the impermanence. And the third one who sees the family and friends who pass away, they will understand the impermanence. And the fourth one who understand that would understand the impermanence upon seeing the death of one's parents. And the fifth one is the one who will only understand impermanence at deathbed, just as the last type of horse who can be tamed only through a stabbing to the bone would understand and be tamed. So Buddha over here talks about the 5 different types of people, as well as how the Kumara Jiva gives the metaphor of 5 types of horses. I really enjoy this metaphor. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to expand too much into those metaphors. But I feel very strongly about this metaphor because I understand that there are people who don't understand until they experience it themselves. So there are very much a lot of differences between people of different capacities. So to this kind of sentient beings of this world, the Buddha Shakyamuni used all sorts of painfully strict language to get the sentient beings to enter into the Vinaya. Just as the elephant need to be tamed through the metal or iron-made whips or different tools to be tamed. Therefore, for sentient beings need to use strict language to get some sentient beings to feel heartbroken, to feel really upset, and through such a way they will then be tamed. So Vimalakirti is saying that the beings of Saha world is not like how the beings of hosts of fragrance, Pure Land, whom can only smell the fragrance and they will be enlightened. They'll listen to the Dharma and be tamed. It's not like that. The beings in Saha world are very difficult to tame. Do not think too easily about it. You may feel that you want to go and teach the sentient beings, turn the wheel of Dharma for maybe a month or 2 or a year or 2, but then you realize how the sentient beings are so difficult to tame, and then you couldn't turn the wheel anymore. It's too difficult to turn, and you just want to run away without turning the wheel. Sometimes I talk to the Dharma masters over here, and I would tell them what kind of weapon, what kind of tools are you going to use to tame the sentient beings in this world? Because nowadays the sentient beings are so difficult to tame. You need to be prepared mentally, at least, to tame the beings, to prepare different tools. You need to have different weapons to tame them, you know? I know you want to turn the wheel of Dharma, and I know you're eager to turn the wheel of Dharma for the sentient beings, but it's not that easy. I really hope that you're prepared for it. Because the beings of this world are very, very obdurate like this, and they're difficult to teach and difficult to tame. Unlike how in the host of fragrance, Pure Land, you can just spray some perfume perfume and burn some incense, and they'll be enlightened right away. But in this world, after teaching the sentient beings for decades, you realize that those beings whomsoever listen to your turning, their mind becomes more like as hard as a diamond, and you cannot tame them anymore. So you should be prepared. So this is a description of Shakyamuni Buddha's Saha world. Vimalakirti then explained very explicitly about the Saha world, the truth of the Saha world.